covering all 4 major sports in the District of Champions. It's the DC Crossover Podcast with your hosts, Mike Cerrone and Ben Simpson.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the DC Crossover, episode 126. I am Ben Simpson. That is Mike Cerrone. You can follow the show on Twitter at the DC Crossover and at Cerrone16. And the place that we're blowing up, go over to TikTok. DC Crossover Podcast is the place to be. Bunch of videos and clips from the show. And DC Crossover Podcast on TikTok. Be sure to follow, like, all that good stuff over there. And we do have a YouTube channel as well, in case you ever want to watch the video version of the show. You can find the DC Crossover Podcast on YouTube. And, yes, we are back after another losing Sunday. Losing in a lot of ways, Mike, because not only did, of course, the Washington Commanders lose, of course, my Lions got destroyed 29-0. Our betting this past weekend was atrocious. First off, Friday, it really started for me on Friday night. I think I went 0 for 8 in my bets on Friday. So then I go, all right, Saturday's going to be better. I think Saturday I hit a couple parlays here and there, but I spent a lot of money on one bet for an over that did not happen. That was one play away from happening, and it did not happen. And then Sunday, the better mentality is, you start losing, and so as a betting man, you go, all right, all I need is one big parlay to hit, and I'll get back everything I lost. So Sunday, I played 3 or 4 pretty big, 5-6 leg parlays, being like, all right, I'm going to get a couple $100 or something if one of these hit, and almost all of them missed by like one leg. And so that's when
that's the
after 3 straight days of losing. That's when it's just not your time. It's just not your weekend, Mike.
Yeah, and that's the thing with me is especially during football, for college football, when I'm betting, all of a sudden like something will happen in the first so I usually do the 12, the 3, and then the 6 or the 7 or whatever. Right. So I'll do the 3. It's kind of the same thing with the NFL. I'll do the first slate of games and this blah 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 blah. But then all of a sudden, when the first game in your parlay just like lays an egg, like you have like over 63 and all of a sudden there's 10 points scored at half, you're just like, well, this is screwed. So then all of a sudden you're like, just like you said, oh man, I gotta put something else in. Like I gotta try to catch the 2:00 games and the 1:30 or something like that. And that's what happens to me a lot. And I don't think I've won a single bet for college football. And that's the problem. Actually, I might have won maybe one.
Whatever
maybe 2.
I won, I lost. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like whatever I won, I lost on Sunday.
Well, the funny thing is that Thursday night, I forgot what game that was. That was the Broncos game.
Yeah.
So
one of the worst football games ever played in the history of the world.
Right. And
12-9.
I had, of course, I had a parlay in that one. And that one was dead in 3 plays because I had Hines in it.
Yeah.
And again, I'm gonna preface this right now. I don't wish ill will on any player. I don't want any player to get concussed or anything like that.
We're not morons here.
I literally saw on Twitter, everyone's like, can't believe you guys are screwing around and saying that your parlay's messed up or you lost a bet or your fantasy football team sucks now. It's like, I understand that my parlay doesn't mean anything, but I can still be upset about it because it's bad luck.
You have full right to be upset. And this weekend, there were so many weird things that happened in these games this week. I mean, freaking Giants beating the Vikings and like all these different things. The Packers, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
I was thinking because the Vikings played international game the weekend before. But right. Giants beating the Packers. You had the Jets or Jags. I mean, it was just like it was a very weird NFL Sunday betting wise. And then Saturday,
a lot of weird scores
was kind of all over the place too. I mean, in college football, it's like. This is obviously like as a sports fan, you love when things don't happen to the script, but as a betting fan, that's where you get in trouble. You're like, this is not what I needed. I needed the chalk picks where you're just like, all right, like because usually every Saturday I'll throw in a parlay where I just pick the favorite for like 5 games, and I go like, hey, this is my favorite parlay, because that happens sometimes in college football where the teams that's quote unquote supposed to win does, and I feel like this season it's never hit. It's always been like, all right, 4 of them hit, and then somebody gets upset. It's just it's rough. It's rough out there. I know you guys listening don't care about our betting woes, but I'll tell you, it was a rough weekend. But I know
Oh my
that, and
gosh.
this has become kind of the saga for you, the chronicle of your weekends. Is I always love to hear about where you might have gone to watch these games, maybe what you had the chance to eat. And it sounded like you initially were planning on going back to the home of the Herndon Laugher, and that is Ned's.
Yes. So real quick about the betting portion, my last word on that is I'm going to tell you real quick the bad beats I had this weekend. So
Sure.
obviously Thursday I had the Naheem Hines whole entire situation, and then I said, you know what? It's probably like 10 o'clock at night or something like that. I bet on preseason basketball along with I added like 2 other things in there for the Thursday night game. The 2 Thursday night things hit. I had the Spurs winning the money line, which was minus 300 or something like that at the time.
Right.
And they were up by 12 against the Magic of all teams. And of course, they lose by 3. And they were up. And then later in the game, they were up by 10 with like 6 minutes left. And they still, I'm like, oh,
You
so that
can't
was a
be
bad
betting
beat.
NBA preseason. It's like when I was betting summer league. It's like you can't do that.
It was stupid. It was stupid, and I should have known better. Especially when I didn't see like a single starter for the Spurs playing.
Right. Of course not.
And like every starter for the Magic was playing.
Right.
And they still barely won. But the thing is, so I had that situation. I had the whole entire Thursday situation. Then Saturday, obviously, that just, I mean, me and you basically were talking about just quitting college, which sucks because I used to be really good at college football. And then Sunday, I did a night parlay where I did it, right before I went to bed for the game early. And when I did that, of course, I had because I usually do, like I told you before, I do the Thursday night, the Sunday, and the Monday, all same game parlays. I make sure that that's what I do. And the good thing is that DraftKings, so hopefully is going to be our sponsor soon, official sponsor, I should say.
Right.
That's big news. That basically they do this whole entire prime time bet boost thing where you can do one boost on Thursday, Sunday, and Monday. For those primetime games, you get a boost that the more picks you put in the parlay. That's why my picks have been a little bit, extended, because the more picks you put in there, the higher the boost is. And so on Sunday morning, I put one in, and all of them hit except the Packers money line, which I can't. Of course, Aaron Rodgers gets 2 passes tipped at the line, the last 2 plays of the game. Great. And then so that one misses by 1. Then on the Sunday night game last night, of course, everyone, there was like 5 of the 7 that I had hit, except for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase had like million targets and only caught 7 balls for like 50 yards. And that was a whole entire rigmarole. So yes, the 401k is a little low. But overall, going back to your original question. So I just had to get that out there and get it off my chest.
For sure.
Before my new season, my 3rd season coming up.
Right.
The betting year. So we went to Ned's, the Herndon Laugher's home. The Laugher was not there. But when we went to Ned's, it's the cast of characters at Ned's. Like, for some reason, we always see the regular people that work there and stuff like that. The funny thing is I don't know if they had anyone working in the kitchen or anything, because there was this one guy that, he was sticking to himself. He was in a booth. He looked like at one point, Jess called him Mr. Feeney because he looked like Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets World.
Okay.
He had glasses, gray hair, dress shirt tucked in.
I was always a Feeney fan, for sure.
And he was reading a book, not watching a single game, just reading a book, ordering small appetizers every 2 seconds. He ordered 2 hot dogs at one point, and the hot dogs came about half an hour later, when you can literally boil 8 hot dogs in a matter of 5 minutes. He had ordered hot dogs, and then he ordered more iced tea, but the lady didn't hear him, so she walked away. And then he asked for a knife to cut into these, I don't know, fried pickles or whatever the heck he had, and she didn't bring the knife for about 25 minutes. And so he took a stand and didn't cut his pickles, and it was just like it was a whole saga. But then there's always these people. So that was Mr. Feeney.
All right.
But then there was a situation where there was this one guy that was sitting at the corner of the bar. So he was like angled, like he was basically playing like a zone defense for both sides of the bar, so he could talk to either side.
Right.
So he's sitting there, and he has a ponytail, but then he has like a fishbowl on his head. So it was kind of like the goldfish from WGMU.
Right. Yeah.
It might have been him.
Yeah, we're the only two people that understand that
Yeah.
reference.
So and I gotta figure out what song he always played when he had his outro. Anyways, so this guy's sitting there and he's eating like the wings looked pretty horrific. They were not that good looking. And the menu and the drinks were just not good. And it was just not a great experience for the game day experience. So probably won't be returning there until late night.
Come on.
Ned's is a great late night spot because you can get some beers and have a game on or something like that. But for the game day experience with the food and everything like that, Carpool just waxes them. So anyways, and so does Crossroads. But looking at it, this guy, like I said, playing zone defense at the corner of the bar, and he starts talking to this one guy who has a Giants shirt on. Meanwhile, mind you, the Giants played at 9:30.
Yeah.
So this is like a 1:30, 2 o'clock. And this, I don't know if this guy with the Giants shirt was, has been there ever since the Giants game started or something like that. But this Pony, he kept sitting there and just talking to this dude. And he was cussing at every TV, like he was watching every game, like just like that one person at Carpool where it's like, who are you rooting for? Like Wentz makes a bad throw and he's like, "Oh, Wentz effing sucks," like out loud in the bar, like out loud, and everyone's like, "Who the hell just said that?" And then all of a sudden he turns to another TV and he's like, "What the effing hell are the Jags doing?"
Tell you, man, this is why I don't leave the house.
And then all of a sudden he looks over and he's rooting for the Bucks in this one game, and he's like, "Come on, Tom, come on." And all of a sudden, I'm like, dude, like this guy's switching.
He's just a fan of the game, He doesn't have allegiances or anything. He's just a fan of football.
Well, then of course, the Steelers, poor Steelers. Go Kenny Pickett though. I'm glad he's in there. Sure. But the Steelers had a bad game to say the least. And all of a sudden, like he's like, "What the F are the Steelers doing? I cannot believe they're losing by this much." And it's like, and then he looks over at the Lions game, and I was shocked the Lions got shut out. And he's like, "Effing Lions!"
Oh man, he's just fired up. Look, he's a representation for all the fan bases out there that are frustrated.
Well, but he's switching. Like he said all of those things in a matter of like 90 seconds.
Well, he appreciates the plight of all these teams. I think he is he's a fan of the game, Mike. He has no ties. He's just any team that's struggling in the game, he feels for you. And that's the type of guy you want next to you at the bar when your team's getting crushed, because that guy's going to be on your side regardless of anything.
Should I make less work and not have to bleep something out real quick that he said?
Yes, you should definitely make less work.
Okay,
not swear.
Okay, so the biggest part was like, obviously I want to say it so bad, but again, he was sitting there and he had money on the Jags and the Texans, and he of course had money on the Jags because everyone thought the Jags were going to win, including myself. But I didn't bet on that game or anything like that because who wants to bet on two terrible teams?
Yeah, no.
So all of a sudden, it's like late in the game, and he looks over and he's like, "Hell yeah, 1st and 20. Screw you, Texans." and I'm just like, and first of all, they weren't showing that game on the TV, so he was watching it on his little phone, and he had like an iPhone 6 or something like that, so it was so small. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Can we turn this stupid Lions game off?" So then he turns the Texans game on, and all of a sudden he's looking over there, and then after the 1st and 20 comment, he sits there and he like takes a bite of his wing, and all of a sudden he looks up and it's like 1st and goal, and he was like, "What the F just happened?"
Oh God. And he was there by himself, I assume.
Dude, the guy was, and he was eating the wings. Then he was on the phone, touching his wing fingers to his phone.
That's gross. This is grossing me out.
And then all of a sudden, like the 1 o'clock games ended, so then he's like, "I'm out of here," and he just left.
Oh, well, everyone's like, "All right, see ya."
Yeah, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, it's just like,
you've never seen this gentleman before?
Well, yeah, maybe. I'm not gonna say it. I was gonna say something else. No, I have not seen.
Make a joke about driving a short bus.
No, I was
where you saw him before.
I was gonna make a joke about something about on the side of the street, but it's it was like, I mean, overall, that guy was crusty, as some people like to call it.
So this is the Ned's experience. So because so far you've related multiple Ned stories. You've talked about loud, drunk Herndon Laffer. You've talked about
Herndon Laffer.
the NFL fan. That's what we're calling this guy because he's just a fan of the NFL.
We call him Pony. We call him Pony for his
okay, yeah,
his little nub ponytail.
we can call him Pony. That's fine with me. Yeah. So I think again, this reinforces my thinking into being correct in that I'm glad I am not leaving the house to go to these bars because I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if I want my viewing experience with Pony and the Herndon Laugher. I mean, if they're both there at the same time, that's a recipe.
That's
for
a zoo
disaster.
Well, you can go to Crossroads because no one goes there.
Sure. Okay. I'll take a look. And yeah, I'd go to Ned's maybe for a chicken sandy sometime.
Yeah. Well,
you should during my lunch break.
you should go to Crossroads just because it's right next to your house.
That's true.
That's the biggest thing.
That's a good selling point. The shortest distance possible usually works for me.
You're not hitting the Monroe Grill anymore, are you?
I hit it every week. Yeah, multiple times a week. I mean, it's right next to my office. I just walk to it. So I still
you got to sub it in. You got to sub the Ned's chicken sandy in there, man.
See, now that's a drive. That's me getting in the car and driving for the Monroe Grill. I just walk out the door of my office right next door. Go grab my. I mix it up. Sometimes I go.
I was say you don't even know your order.
Well, there's the Monroe Grill Club that I get sometimes with some fries, and then my other go-to order, of course, is the spicy chicken. It's like chicken. It's not a sandwich. It's the chicken, rice, salad, and a little egg roll, and it's like cheap.
Did they know you by your first name?
That is. I don't know. They don't know my name. I don't know theirs. But we've known each other for like 4 years, but that's it just never has come up. It's never there's never a need to say a first name over there, and that's why I love that place. Let's move into a little bit of football talk. We do have to get to it here.
We are the Commanders.
Yes, unfortunately, we do have to bring up another travesty here as the Commanders have lost 4 straight, including another loss, this time at home, 21-17 to the Tennessee Titans. Going into the game, this was the Titans were favored by 1 point, I think, the betting line.
I think the final betting line was 1.5.
Right. So, going in, even the odds makers kind of thought, hey, the Commanders have a chance here at home playing the Titans. You got to think something can happen here. And, of course, the Commanders did lose. Carson Wentz on the game, 359 yards, 2 TDs, 1 pick, which was at the end of the game. Got sacked 3 times. Other stats here, I mean, the rushing game is pretty much non-existent. Brian Robinson came back, obviously, from the gunshot stuff, and he's back in the lineup. 9 carries, 22 yards. He was the team's leading rusher for the game with 22 yards. That's and the second leading rusher, Carson Wentz, five carries, 15 yards. On the receiving side of things, that's where things were a little bit better. I mean, Terry McLaurin, 5 catches, 76 yards. The big one was De'Ami Brown. 2 catches, 105 yards, and one of them, of course, being the 75-yarder, and 2 touchdowns on the day for a guy who has been. I mean, obviously, we were kind of excited to bring him in. Initially, we're like, this guy's a blazer. He's got great speed. And we, I think, give credit to you and I. I'm pretty sure before the season started, we had talked about that with Carson Wentz coming in, that a guy like De'Ami Brown would have the potential to have a big play here and there because Carson Wentz got a good arm, maybe take a shot, and we saw it in that game as far as De'Ami Brown getting a touchdown there. Other guys, I mean, Curtis Samuel, 6 catches, 62 yards. Mike's favorite player, John Bates, 3 catches, 39 yards. Nothing else really much stat line wise that was impressive. I mean, Carson.
How many tackles did Wild Goose get?
Wild Goose, yeah, that's a good question because I 2 tackles.
Oh, nice.
2 tackles. Cole Holcomb led the team, of course, as he always does. He had 15 tackles. 11 of those are being solo. So, you did have, I guess, if there's good and bad in this game. I think one of the good aspects was defensively 5 sacks for this defense. You got to like that. But everything else, not a big fan of, especially having a chance to possibly win the game at the end and not being able to execute. There was a really funny video of Jason Brown from the Netflix show Last Chance U, who is for those who watch that show, he was the coach from Independence, Kansas was the team. Crazy guy, but he was on Twitter today breaking down that play call and at the end of the game, and just showing like how terrible the reads were from Carson and how bad the play call was from the offense. It was great to see. But anyway, 17-21, Commanders lose. Mike, another tough one for sure.
So I'll start with the positives. The positive, when you're looking at the defense, as you mentioned, James Smith-Williams, I don't really know too much about this guy, to say the least. But when you're looking at him, I mean, he had a pretty damn good game. 4 total tackles, 3 solos, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 4 QB hits, tie the team lead with QB hits. Then obviously Montez Sweat, 6 total tackles, 5 solos, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 4 QB hits. So they were getting pressure on Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is
right.
somewhat easy to get pressure on because he has cinder blocks for legs. He has some mobility, but it's nowhere close to like a Jalen Hurts or anybody like that. He's more so in between Jalen Hurts and Tom Brady. It's not that much. So you're really looking at it and saying, we got good pressure. Cole Holcomb, which everyone says like, oh, he's average. If you got a guy that can go out there as a linebacker and, not be a Reed Doughty. Now, Reed Doughty, back in the day, everyone used to like, just pencil him in as a starter. I thought he sucked. That guy was so bad back in the day because he would get so many tackles because they just throw at him all day. But Cole Holcomb's a linebacker, and that's what he's supposed to do is go out there and lead the team in tackles. I believe last year he was top 7, I believe, or something like that. Maybe I'm off with that. I know he's top 10, I believe, in tackles for Cole Holcomb. But you're looking at it and just saying like, oh, what happened to Jamin Davis? Oh, he's actually playing better. I saw he had a touchdown saving tackle, at least against Derrick Henry in the flat when he got thrown to in the flat, I believe it was. Or maybe it was a little bit downfield. I forgot exactly how far it was as of right now. But you're looking at it and just saying, like, we had some sacks. We had some good pressures. Our defensive line played really well. Our secondary wasn't as bad. So you're looking at it and saying, okay, not too bad. Not too bad. We'll take that.
Yeah.
But then moving on.
21 points is not the end of the world defensively. I mean,
yeah,
it's 3 touchdowns, 1 a quarter for the first 3 quarters. Like, yeah, that's not – I think you would take – now, obviously, you want – I mean, it would be great if they give up no touchdowns. Like, I understand that. But I just think for where this defense has struggled at times and where this team has struggled at times, giving up 21 points, not the end of the world. And defensively, right. I think you're right. They did look a lot better.
And then looking at the offensive side of the ball, and by the way, I will say a negative was Tress Way. Tress Way probably had his worst game as a pro. He had some terrible punts, but overall,
some crucially terrible punts.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially some of the positioning towards the end of the game. I mean, 6 punts, only 2 he was able to get him within the 20.
Right.
And that it just not a good day for Tress Way. I fully agree.
Yeah, I just wanted to side note that real quick. But then again, the positives for the receiving side, yes, De'Ami Brown had 2 catches for 105 yards. I still don't think he's going to be a huge factor for this team.
Right.
When Dotson comes back, he's going to slot him back right in there. But it's good to see him go out there and actually have something productive because it would be nice to see him somehow get overshadowed by Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, and Jahan Dotson for the sole fact that he could come in on this type of role and go in there and get a couple scores and get a couple long bombs. But the biggest thing is you're looking at, John Bates, as you mentioned earlier. Yeah, he's not my favorite player, but he's a pass, or excuse me, he's a blocker. He's not even a pass catcher. Cole Turner, who we drafted this year, was supposed to be that guy. He got 3 targets, no catches. So that was not a good thing. But J.D. McKissick looked like J.D. McKissick of last year, which was great. He did get a couple really good productive downs where he went out there and extended drives. But you're just looking at it and saying, overall, pretty good day from everybody. I mean, Terry McLaurin had a couple good, really good catches in traffic. His longest was 34, which is good. But we want to see that. We want to see, Scary Terry is not going to be the guy that goes out there and catches, 145 yards or anything like that. He's going to be the guy that you lean on because he's very reliable. And he has a game like this past, a day ago where he had 5 catches, 76 yards. That's pretty much who he is. And right there, that's perfect because you go out there, he's not going to go out there and try to get 1,500 yards. He's a, probably an 80 to 90 catch guy to 100 or maybe 1,300 yards receiving, which is a pretty solid receiver. He's probably not top 10 in the league, or anything like that.
Right.
But I would say he's easily top 15 probably. And he's that type of guy. And he had a good game for once because they started targeting him, and him and Curtis Samuel did really well. But now we're going to move on to the negatives. So where should we start with the negatives? Maybe we'll start at quarterback. I think Carson Wentz had a B- game. Now I'm not going to say he had a great game. I mean, his average wasn't that great, 9.4. I mean, I think he outshined Ryan Tannehill tenfold. But you're looking at it and saying 3 sacks, okay, it's not as bad, even though he was still getting bum rushed every 2 seconds. But you're looking at it and kind of looking at his stat line and saying that's a really good stat line. But you're still seeing people out there who are negative Nancy's who sit there and say, oh man, Carson, he got a D from me. He just didn't make the right reads and this. Okay, I understand that he had 2 long bombs that were 105 yards. They still count. Okay. Not to mention, it's not like he had a Ryan Tannehill stat line where he had 105 yards of De'Ami Brown and only 181 total. The biggest thing you're looking at here is like the guy threw for almost 360 yards, threw 38 times, which is, you probably don't want that because we couldn't run the ball, obviously. But you're sitting there saying he had 2 touchdowns. He had the crucial pick at the very end of the game. But the biggest thing about it was I saw some dimes he was dropping in the breadbasket. And the problem that I have is that people still sit there and say, man, this guy, there's Rick Snyder is a good guy. Okay. I like it. I like hearing him on the radio and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, and he's got a funny voice kind of to me and stuff like that. And it's entertaining, but you think about it and saying, he said he gave him a D. He's like, no, I saw some good things, but I also saw some negative things. It's like everyone says that, and it's getting really annoying to this point because everyone says, "Oh, I saw some good things, but I hey, hold the horses, like pull back on the reins. I saw some bad things too." It's because they can't focus on the good things that he did to keep us in the ball game. Now, granted, 17 points. Not enough to win your ball game with this defense. Okay.
Right.
We don't have the Bucks defense when they were in the Super Bowl. We don't have, the Ravens 2000 defense. We don't have a defense that's so overpowering to the point where they can go out there and win with 17 points. But you're looking at it and saying, where was the run game? Okay. You're looking at it and saying, where was, the play calling late in the game or the clock management from the coaching staff? I mean, literally, I wanted to challenge the Cam Sims, but I'm an armchair coach over here that shouldn't be costing you the game where you just lost a timeout when I said I wanted to challenge it because I saw one replay and I was excited because he caught the ball and he was really pumped up. So I thought and I believed that he caught it. But after I saw a couple of replays, I was like, oh, I shouldn't challenge that.
No.
But then all of a sudden they challenged it and they lost a freaking timeout. And then you have stupid Nick Martin who got 0 talent from his brother Zach. And he's over there like the 3rd snap of the game or something like that. He snapped on the ground and Carson's diving around like a turtle, trying to, like Franklin, the old cartoon sitting there trying to like in the fetal position, trying to cover the ball. And then it was just so it's bad. Like, dude, make a snap. He did it in the last drive of the game. He got a penalty in the last drive of the game. What the hell is that guy doing? Like that guy's making 10,000 million times more than I am as a teacher. And that guy can't even snap the damn ball right. It's like, dude, you can't snap it right. Your brother is so much better than you. He's an all-pro right guard. And all of a sudden, maybe he's a left guard. Who cares? I hate the Cowboys. And it's like, you just think about it and saying, what are we doing? Like, I understand that's not a coaching issue because obviously if you can't snap the ball, you just suck in general. But why is everyone blaming, once again, everyone's blaming Carson Wentz for throwing that pick? I even texted a buddy of mine and said, I can't wait till you come and tell me, oh, Carson Wentz cost us that game and he choked. It's like, he threw for 360 yards. Okay. He kept you in the game. He was throwing dimes left and right.
And the pick was on, an end of the game drive to try to win the game. Like that's going to happen sometimes. Like that's not the player, that's not him like fumbling it. Yeah. There's certain plays that you could say a guy choked, but on that one, it's like, you got to kind of chalk it up as like, hey, this was he's trying to win the ball game for us here. And it just didn't happen. Yeah.
But it's just my last thought is, I'm really sick and tired of everyone saying Carson Wentz did a couple good things, but he did so many bad things too. You have to chalk it up. And that's what's pissing me off too, is that Yes, again, like I said, 17 points ain't going to win you a ball game, but he kept you in the ball game, and he was the one who led the drive down. He's the one who threw those 2 dimes to De'Ami Brown. Yeah, De'Ami Brown has to catch it, but he still put it right in the breadbasket where De'Ami Brown was the only one who could catch it. And then you're looking at other throws that he made, and I was like, man, that's great. That was awesome. It kind of reminisced back to the Jaguars game. And yes, he is inconsistent. We all know that, but we're not sitting here saying that this dude is Peyton Manning. Like, I have always thought right now this season that he is a top 20 quarterback. Now, maybe to the latter half of that top 20.
Right.
I'm not saying he's anywhere close to the top 10, but a top 20 quarterback, it's a top 20 quarterback. And everyone's saying, oh, put Taylor Heineke in. And I loved it when I saw on Twitter everyone saying, oh, man, I think Taylor could have ran it in there. Taylor could have ran it. I'm like, how do you even know that? How do you know Taylor Heineke could have ran it in there? Because you watched one play from the Bucks playoff game where he dove for the pylon. You're a moron. Right. Whoever said that in that stupid press conference live thing that I saw on Facebook, you're a moron for saying that. Because anybody, you think Russ could do that? I think Russ could do that. Russ used to be mobile, and now everyone's saying that Russ was elite the last 3 years, and now all of a sudden Russ sucks. So it's like you're looking at it and saying Carson Wentz. Everyone and I feel bad a little bit for him because everyone's just beating this dude into the freaking grave and just wants to kick him out for something that he's not even doing wrong. I now understand there are things that he is doing wrong. I get that. But the problem is that the coaching staff has zero accountability. They don't sit there and say, oh, man, we got to put him in a better spot. Or you ever heard them say that? Oh, we got to put Carson in a better spot. We kind of left him out to dry on this play call. We didn't get the play in on time, or we misused the timeouts there. It's always, oh, well, Jamin Davis, he can't tackle. He sucks. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, Carson Wentz, we got to do a lot better with him. Like, I can't believe he's having these bad throws. It's like, dude, like Ron Rivera, you suck. I'm tired of this. This is my last plea, okay? Because I just don't understand it. Like, I'm getting fired up now. I'm like, the juices are flowing because the sole fact that I saw that today, and we're gonna get to it here in a second. That sounder, I don't understand how you don't take accountability for someone who has been a head coach for the last 11 years or whatever the hell it is. Take accountability. Stop blaming all the players and, shoving your chips over here and shoving your chips over there and pointing this finger, pointing that finger. It's like the Spider-Man meme when they're all pointing at each other and all the coaches say, well, who is it? I don't know. It's not me. It was him. I don't know. Maybe it's not. It's like, what are you doing? Stop blaming this dude for going out there and throwing 360 yards and then saying, oh, it's the quarterback's fault every single 2 seconds. The dude hung in there. He threw for twice as much as Ryan Tannehill. And Ryan Tannehill, yeah, he has Derrick Henry. But at the same time, it's like he outplayed that quarterback tenfold. And you're going to sit there and blame him for every single thing that he did. And you're not going to take any blame for yourself. You need to kick rocks, pound sand, go down the road and just retire because we need some new blood in here. And that's what's going to happen, I hope.
And that takes us to this clip that you mentioned that this was going around on Twitter today from this press conference. I'm just going to play it and we'll react.
Aaron, following up on John's question about the Giants, they're up to a faster start. The Eagles, the Cowboys, they've kind of all been rebuilding too the last couple of years, and it seems like they're farther ahead. Why do you think the teams in the division are farther ahead at this point?
Quarterback.
God, what a moron.
I mean, with quarterback, like the Cowboys, for instance, they don't have Dak Prescott this season and still have been able to win.
They started with
him,
Dak,
but
and they build around Dak, and the offense is built around Dak. Their backup's a guy that is very solid inside of what they do.
What does that even mean?
The truth is that this is a quarterback-driven league, and if you look at the teams that have been able to sustain success, they've been able to build it around a specific quarterback.
Chose the quarterback here, though. So do you have any regrets about that, or how do you?
No, I got no regrets about that quarterback. I think our quarterback has done some good things. There's been a couple of games that he struggled, but you look at his numbers from yesterday, and you would say, okay, look at his numbers he's had throughout the year. There was a time he was, very
pass
solid.
and blame once again.
And then, we had the unfortunate Philadelphia game, and he struggled a little bit in the Dallas game. But the way he performed yesterday, it just shows you what he's capable of. And we chose him because we believe him. We chose him because we looked at what we felt were things that pointed towards him.
I guess the problem is what he's saying just doesn't really make sense. I think if you true and part of it is look like I I guess, Ron is not going to, kind of like you said, I don't think Ron is going to sit there and ever take the blame and the accountability. He'll
Yep.
partially do it, like, yeah, some of it's on us, and then some of it's on the guys, and he'll never take that full responsibility. But it doesn't make sense to, when you say that these other teams, especially in the division, have just built around a quarterback, and that's why they're having success. And though I chose the quarterback, so it should technically be my fault if we're not having success, by his own logic, he is responsible for the team's lack of success because he chose a quarterback. Like, it doesn't make sense. But the bigger thing is, look, this is it's obviously bigger than just a quarterback in the NFL. I mean, quarterback's obviously so crucial. You have to have a good one. I get that. But you look at the other teams in this division. I mean, look at the Eagles, one of the best defenses in the league. Look at the Bucs last year, always up there in defense. I mean, defense is obviously going to be a big part of it, and the other personnel are going to be a big part of it beyond just the quarterback. I don't think that offensive line for the teams that are really successful in this league is just because they're building for the quarterback. No, they're building because you need to have a good offensive line if you want to win football games. Doesn't matter who's back there. So I just don't. His logic, and this was a great questioning from the reporter. I didn't catch his name, but. Because, if you look around the division, and there's no excuse. I mean, this Giants team is better. It shouldn't be better than this Commanders team, but they are record-wise. Eagles, they were supposed to be rebuilding a year or two ago, and now look at them. They're, one of the best teams in the NFC now. And then you look at the Cowboys, supposed to be taking steps back without Dak. This is the second season in a row he's gotten hurt, and they're still just as strong as they've ever been. And it doesn't make sense that the Commanders aren't able to keep up with that. In theory, it doesn't make sense that's happening. And if it is happening, then it's on Ron. It's on the personnel decisions, because this shouldn't be happening. This team should be better than they are right now.
The funny thing that I look at, and again, people are going to probably go out there and say that I'm a Carson Wentz homer and I hate coaches and all that kind of stuff. The biggest thing is, like I said, he's pointing fingers once again at Carson Wentz and then trying to backpedal the entire conversation. Because when you think about him saying, "Oh, it's the quarterback," and then all of a sudden the guy was like, "But you picked him. Like you picked this guy, but you're saying he's the reason you guys are losing." I mean, think about it this way: Cleveland, they have Jacoby Brissett. Who would you take, Carson Wentz or Jacoby Brissett?
Carson Wentz 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, that's my point. Is Jacoby Brissett? Yeah, Cleveland's been playing pretty well, but Jacoby Brissett has literally completed 64% of his passes, which is just over Carson Wentz. He also has 330 yards less, which is a full game, and he's been the day one starter. Yeah, it's because you have the personnel around him, and they have a better offensive line. It's like, again, I've heard so many things out there that said, you know what? It's okay. We have weapons. We have this. We have that. Who's going to be blocking for him? I just don't hear any words come out of his mouth that says, you know what? Nick Martin sucks. Or, you know what? Sam Cosmi was a terrible pick a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Or Wes Schweitzer or who, I don't even know who the guards are. I don't even know who's playing, to be honest with you. I just know they all are terrible. It's like you look at it and say, why isn't he looking at the real issues? Oh, you benched William Jackson this week. Oh, maybe that's the reason why Ryan Tannehill only threw for 180 yards. Like, maybe that's why. Maybe you're actually taking accountability by benching some guys that you made moves for. You made moves for William Jackson. He's like the second highest paid player on the team or something like that, and he sucks right now. I mean, you just don't understand what you're doing, because right now what you're doing is actually defending the players you have that you picked up by saying, well, I mean, they built around. They didn't build around Cooper Rush. They cut him at the end of the preseason. Like, you're saying that Cooper Rush, who literally got cut at the end of the preseason, and I mean, that was a huge story. The Cowboys have no quarterbacks after Dak. They ended up getting Cooper Rush back. I mean, Ben DiNucci is getting flack right now because he said how bad the Broncos game was, and then everyone started trashing him on there, and he was a Cowboys quarterback at one point. So you're looking at it just saying, I don't understand the flack that he's getting, because Ron is saying that Cooper Rush and also that Daniel Jones are better than Carson Wentz.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
I don't give a rat's ass about QBR. QBR sucks. That's the dumbest stat in the world because he went out there and threw for 360 and 2 touchdowns, and they're like, oh, he had a below average QBR. How is that even calculated? He
Right.
threw for almost 400 yards. It's like it makes no sense to me because yes, yards aren't everything. Because yes, you look on here and you're looking at Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan in the top 5 in yards. It's probably because their teams are down. You know, that's a reason why they're throwing a lot. But you're also looking at other guys in here that threw for a ton of yards too. Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Tom Brady. Tom Brady, you know, his teams haven't been down all the time. I mean, they were up by 20 points or whatever this past week, or 15 or whatever the heck it was. And he's thrown 3 less times than Carson Wentz. And they have Leonard Fournette. So it's like you're looking at it and saying, what is the real issue with Ron? I think Ron has this personal vendetta against either Carson Wentz or against somebody that we just can't pinpoint right now, because when you sit there and blame this guy, then that guy. I mean, I hate Jamin Davis. He needs to step up a lot more. We got time.
Right,
then he said,
right.
then he says, "Oh, well, we got time. We got to work harder." It's like, what do you mean you got to work harder?
Yeah, it's
like
not
that
gonna happen overnight.
It's like if I suck at calculus, I'm not just going to work harder and then all of a sudden be Albert Einstein. It doesn't make any sense. Like there's no point to sit there and say we got to work harder and work our tails off. Like, okay, this isn't like a construction site where like all of a sudden, like, you know, you got to work harder to get the construction built faster. It makes no sense. It's not like a time consumption thing. You're seeing it other coaches around the area. Kevin O'Connell, they're 4-1 in Minnesota. They sucked under Zimmer. Then you're seeing other coaches around the area. I mean, the guy in Dallas, his name is freaking Mike McCarthy. He sucked the first year. Then also they went 12-5 last year, and they're winning with a triple backup, practice squad guy, Cooper Rush, who played barely any time in the NFL recently. And you're seeing that, and all of a sudden, Ron keeps saying, well, we got some time. We got some time. Like, okay, stop. Like, I understand that you don't want to panic because that's coaches speak. You don't want to sit there and say, you know what, we're giving up on the season. You don't want to say that shit.
Sure.
But sorry.
It's
but
okay. Yeah.
whatever. But at the same time, you're looking at it and saying, I don't understand why you can't just be real. That's why everyone liked Jay Gruden, because Jay Gruden was like, we just got to play better football. I mean, this is terrible. We're not playing. Like, he would say what's on his mind. That's the thing. That's what everyone liked about it. But then all of a sudden, now you're seeing, Ron Rivera here is trying to act like some like motivational speaker, and someone and Scott Abraham or Abrams or however I say his last name, I forgot. I'm in a frenzy right now. He says, hey, so is it time to panic? He's like, maybe for you, Scott, it's time to panic, but we're status quo over here. Like we're doing our thing. Like, yeah, you're doing your thing. That sucks. Like, whatever you're doing just sucks. It's like, I just don't understand, because again, Carson Wentz just gets so much flack, and it's getting under my skin real easily, because he's not the best quarterback in the world. Everyone knows that, but everyone's expectations are so high that he has to be, because since Kirk Cousins, he's the best quarterback we've had pretty much since Robert Griffin and Kirk Cousins. So you're looking at it and saying, best guy we've had in the last 5 years or so. Our expectations are through the freaking roof. Everyone expects 2017 Carson Wentz, but you're not getting 2017 Carson Wentz. You're getting, Tom Brady when he's going to be 57 years old. Like, you're not going to get a guy that's going to be in his prime, ready to rock and roll, going to go out there and throw dimes left and right and throw for 300 yards every single time. You don't have that guy. You have a guy that's better than the last few quarterbacks you've had that have been underperforming. This guy, I mean, when's the last time we had a guy through 5 games throw for the fourth most yards in the entire NFL? We don't have that right now. Right now, he's Jared Goff. I think him and Jared Goff are pretty much on par. They have really inconsistent games, but they throw, some dimes in there that you're just like, man, that's why Jared Goff is the number 1 overall pick. That's why Carson Wentz was the number 2 overall pick. You see that talent. But then there's other games where Jared Goff goes out there and gets shut out 29-0 when people expected them to win. So you're seeing that, and I just don't understand it. And Ron's just, literally the S is piling up to the point where it's like, it started at a Chihuahua early, and now it's like a Rottweiler, and then it's starting to become a Saint Bernard.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think, I think this fan base is also just weird about quarterbacks. They really are.
Oh yeah.
They'll suddenly get behind a guy like Taylor Heineke that really they shouldn't necessarily get behind, and then
He had a
they,
whole season last year, and no one saw that.
yeah, and then they won't get behind a guy like Carson Wentz, or they'll lose faith in Kirk Cousins, and obviously there was a lot in that situation, but still, like it's just a very weird fan base when it comes to quarterbacks. There just hasn't been a normal. I feel like they're just never normal about QBs here in this town for some reason, and like this is another example of that. But I don't know. We'll see what happens this week against the Bears. That should be a winnable game, but you never know with this team anymore.
They're not even favored in that game.
I know it's a mess. But before we get to the final lap, it is time to settle back here, Mike. Settle back. I know you've been fired up today, dropping F-bombs left and right on the show.
I dropped an S-bomb.
I know.
I held the F back.
I'm kidding. We're
I wanted to say that, though.
We're gonna head over to the Sultan of Seltzers, doing his Sultan of Seltzers reviews.
I'm not saying it. This is an adult beverage, by the way.
Got it. Okay, good to know. So, in case you were wondering, the number one seltzer in the standings right now is our Wild Basin Black Raspberry at 8.4. Right now, the lowest rated is the White Claw Passion Fruit at 4.1. What do we have in store for the people today?
Today for the Sultan of Seltzer, we should have like a guy do a voice like that and pay $5 for it on Fiverr.
Or you just find a guy on the street. Find a guy at Ned's.
Yeah, maybe Pony will do it.
There you go.
Hey, he might start talking to me about freaking Jacksonville Jaguars or something like that. So today we have a new one that I haven't seen before. I might have been on sale, so that might not be a good sign. But it is brewed in my hometown, Sterling, Virginia.
Oh, okay. I like that.
So no idea where it's brewed, though, in Sterling, Virginia. It says brewed in that area.
Interesting.
It might be out of someone's garage. I don't know. All right. So what we have is the Brilliant. Now, that's a high standard. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Craft Hard Seltzer Mojito.
So we did have a Mojito style Truly Kiwi earlier in the Sultan of Seltzers. That was the third rated drink. You gave it a 6.9 out of 10. So we'll see what Brilliant Hard Seltzer Mojito style here. So we start with the appearance here. The appeal.
The appeal is really cool because of the sole fact that it's like the one thing I don't like about it is that you can tell it's not like a legit can because it's just like a regular can. It's put like that like sticker on it.
Sure. It's, right.
Where I don't like that because that to me feels like, you know, back in like a barn somewhere or something like that. They're doing.
That's the hope. I hope it's from a barn.
Yeah, I guess. But it's just like it's a cool like sticker because it's black and it looks like a silver sun's popping out of it. Stuff like that. It looks pretty cool. So the peel is not bad, but the issue I have with it is it's, I noticed it was like a sticker, and I don't like stickers. I like it when, the can is like a Truly can or something like that, where it's all flat and it's smooth and it's nice. But this one's
not like stickers, people.
I don't like stickers. Okay,
sure, note that. Take a little whiff. I just want to know, can you smell any of the fruity mojito in there?
Well, it's not fruity. It smells. Well, I guess mojito has mint in it, right? So
right. Okay.
So it does have a hint of mint.
All right.
Like
a
that.
Hint of mint.
All right.
Let's give it a little.
Let's give it a little whirl.
Taste there. Let's see what's in store here for the Brilliant Hard Seltzer Mojito. A brilliant seltzer for a brilliant man, if you ask me.
You know what? I've never had a mojito before because when I go to a bar or a nice place, like I always see where it says like specialty drinks or signature drinks, and I'm always like, all right, just give me a double rum and coke.
Right.
But I'm just not a fancy drinker. Like it's just not my style.
That's surprising for a lot of people listening to this show. They just assumed you were a really fancy guy.
Oh, really? Well, yeah. You tune into TikTok and you'll look at me and say that guy's the bottom of the barrel. So the first drink, it's actually quite pleasant. It's not like a pleasant taste where all of a sudden I'm sitting here saying like, man, this is really hitting the spot. But it's pleasant in the sense of, all right, it's kind of like a Carson Wentz when he throws for 360.
There we go. So this tastes like Carson Wentz. And it also makes you smarter because it's brilliant hard seltzer. That's a big part of it too. So I'm interested to know the rating here for this one. So let me get the drum roll ready here as we hear the.
Only problem though, 4.5 alcohol. Don't like that.
Ooh, that's a little low for you.
The Brilliant Craft Hard Seltzer Mojito is a 6.9 out of 10.
6.9 for
Yep.
the Brilliant Hard Seltzer. That puts it actually right at the exact rating of the Truly Kiwi Mojito style poolside pack, which was also a 6.9. And I believe, so that ties it now for 4th place overall, I believe. Or no, 5th place. 5th place looks like overall.
Just in general, it's not going to blow you out of the water, but it has a kind of, I've had maybe one mojito in my life before, and it kind of tastes, you can taste a little bit of the hint of the mint and the lime or whatever the hell's in it. And I remember the kiwi mojito style, and the initial taste wasn't was better than the aftertaste. That's why that one got knocked. This one, like I said, it's a nice average C. Maybe I should give it a 7.0 because a 70 in high school is a C.
It's too late. You already wrote down 6.9.
It's 6.9. It's the mojito in it. But right now, 6.9. 6.9 is it's a solid score.
It's a solid score. I mean, yeah, you're just teetering into the 7s. You're just outside of that mark. If they just made it a little bit better,
you're not going to seek it out. I mean, you're going to if it's like, hey, I'm going to try something new, just like the Sultan does, then obviously you might want to try it. But overall,
all you kiddies at home, I just want to be like the Sultan. That's what they say. All those
stick with Wild Basin Black Raspberry.
That's what we tell the youth of America. If you want to be like the Sultan, you drink Wild Basin Black Raspberry. Let's move into the final lap. 90 seconds of some quick analysis and some bigger stories in sports. Here we go. Of course, we talked about him earlier. Matt Rule fired as head coach of the Panthers, Mike, and he got a nice little paycheck on the way out because he still had some years left on that contract. $40 million he is owed.
I mean, that's just glorious, man. Sitting there saying, hey, and I told you in our text thread, if you have a chance to coach an NFL team, one of the 32 jobs in the world, you might as well do it because even if you suck, you're still going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, no kidding. And he'll go get a job somewhere. The Mets are done. One hit in that game, in the wild card game, lost to the Padres. Now, the Phillies and the Braves are still alive, so you do have a couple NL East folks still in it. But it's always good to see the Mets lose after a season like this, too.
You know what? I hate the Mets, and I love seeing them only have one hit and lose to the Padres. Now, I wish it would have happened one game earlier because I bet on the Padres, but, game 2 didn't happen for me. But overall, I hate the Mets, so suck it.
And moving on from that one, actually, kind of staying on the topic, interesting thing, actually, I'm going to get to that in a sec. First, DC United, Mike, they finished 7-6-21 with 21 losses, 14th place in the MLS. ESPN gave them an F grade for the season. I know it's not like, I mean, we were following the team a lot at the beginning when they were winning, and then it's like the wheels came off this season. You had Taxi Fountas get accused of calling another player by a racial slur. That was investigated. I mean, this was a disaster season for DC United. Do you think, this is about bottom of the barrel for this team. I mean, without getting into the nitty gritty of the players or anything like that, are they the most embarrassing team in DC sports right now?
Well, I mean, if you consider the Nats being the worst team in Major League Baseball by 5 games to the Oakland Athletics, who are playing in a stadium that is made for horror movies, I mean, that's pretty bad. But DC United, the thing is that everyone expects a lot out of them because they do have that one season out of 3 where all of a sudden they're playing in the playoffs, and it's crazy. But I think obviously getting Wayne Rooney in there, maybe attracting some English players that are kind of at the back end of their prime, that could help them a little bit. But 14th place, I mean, that's just pitiful. I didn't even know their season was still going on, to be honest with you.
It just ended. It was bad. It was bad. And then the last thing, I just wanted to point this out because it's fun here locally. So you had a little exchange on Twitter between FP Santangelo and Kevin Franzen. Of course, FP, the former color analyst for Masson and the Nats. Kevin Franzen now the current one. So this was regarding the Padres-Mets game. FP Santangelo tweeted, I couldn't tweet, you have to walk Juan Soto here fast enough, ... Turn out the lights, the party's over. This was in response to Juan Soto coming up in a big situation and FP saying, you got to walk this guy in this situation. Kevin Franzen responds and replies to FP and says, numbers against left-handers this year, it was a no-brainer to go after him. Batting 200 with runners in scoring position, and Manny Machado's on deck. So basically saying, like, hey, actually, you shouldn't just automatically walk Juan Soto here. You should go after him here because based on the numbers.
Right.
FP Santangelo, a little sassy response here, Mike, responds, who gives a S about numbers? He's Juan Soto. That's it. And then people really got involved in this. People saying sassy Santangelo. You had Johnny Holiday weigh in and say, Kevin, you're completely right on this. Another former massive
Love me
guy.
some Holiday.
It's always nice to kind of see, Kevin Franzen, it gets a little feisty on Twitter. I've seen him kind of battle with other fan bases and things like that. It's very weird to see your current color analyst and your former color analyst getting into a little tiff on Twitter. I like to see it.
Well, because of the sole fact that FP was always, there was mixed reactions because you had those certain people that he would lean on to back him up saying like, I'm just trying to let you guys know how baseballs run. It's like, dude, you were a utility player and no one cares about you.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. And he is a douche on Twitter. I don't care what anyone says. He's a loser on Twitter. Like he literally, I tweeted at him one time. I think he blocked me for like a day and then unblocked me. It was kind of weird. Because he was like sitting there praising Ryan Zimmerman. And obviously, you know how I feel about Ryan
Mr.
Zimmerman.
National. Mr. National.
And ever since you gave me that shirt, it's been on the back of this chair and it has not moved.
There you go. Well, yeah, and then you look at like FP, it's like he's saying like who gives an S about numbers and things like that. It's like, yeah, this is why you're not a relevant color analyst anymore because a lot of the game and analyzing the game has to do with the numbers. You do have to look at the stats these days, and you don't care about that, FP, because you're so old school and cool. And it's like, well, this is just the way the game has evolved, and Kevin Franzen's just making a point in that, hey, if you look at the numbers and the situation, it's like, yeah, you just look at the name on the back of the jersey and see Juan Soto. Sure, that's one thing we recognize as greatness, but look at the situation. That's what the coaches care about. The coaches don't get intimidated by, ooh, no, it's Juan Soto. The coaches are looking at what's the situational matchup, what's he hitting against lefties, who's on deck. Like that is how you think of a real analyst and a real coach and that side of things.
Are you going to tell Randy Johnson, who's a lefty, one of the best lefties, if not the best lefty of all time, going to sit there and say, hey, man, I think you should really, he might even throw you the middle finger and tell you to F off. That's how Randy Johnson, I think, was back in the day, especially with the Mariners. But you're looking at it and saying, like, obviously Moneyball, it doesn't work all the time.
Right. Of course not. No.
That's the thing is that even NFL are doing, seriously, like literally I think it was the Titans or I forgot who had them in the box this past week. Like they were like, oh, these are the three analytics guys that are sitting there just telling the coaches every single scenario of what the analytics tell them. It's like, that's what sports are going to nowadays.
Yeah.
There's so many different methods out there, so many different calculations, so many different algorithms that you can go through that give you the best opportunity to move forward. And right there, when he's sitting there saying, it's Juan Soto, you got to get rid of him. Like, okay, well, Manny Machado used to be an MVP caliber player too. Now, I don't know if he is right nowadays, but at the same time, it's I don't understand.
He's very good. Manny Machado had a great season.
Yeah.
You look at it, and now you send a righty to the plate versus a lefty. I think you're totally right in that. Analytics is obviously a vital part of the game these days, and it really just comes down to how you use the numbers. You don't always have to follow the numbers. Heck, look at our sports betting. Like the favorites don't always win in the betting world and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think it's just FP is just still such a clown. So it's just funny to see that the other day. So I had to point that out.
Thank you.
Before we get to the money line, we'll actually, let's get to the money line right now. Let's save trivia for next week just because we're running a little bit long here. So let's go ahead and get the money line sponsored by DraftKings, hopefully officially sponsored by DraftKings soon. We'll, again, keep you posted on that. And
what are we going to do for the background? Are we going to change? Are we going to get the contender thing off there and just...
Yeah.
What are we going to do here?
That's the plan. So for those watching on YouTube, should the contender logo as of the this YouTube episode should be gone if I remember to do that.
It's going to be like that GIF where the guy goes like this, and he does a peace sign, and then he just fades away.
Yeah, love it. I mean, yeah, what an era. I still got the bottle opener downstairs.
Oh, so do I. Haven't used it once though.
Money line picks here. It was, I mean, we talked about it at the top of the show what a bloodbath it was picks wise this weekend, and it definitely was for me.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm looking to bounce back here. I'm going a little different for me. My lock, for this segment, I usually like just sticking with spreads, but I'm going to go an under. So Arizona plays Washington in college football this weekend. The over under right now is set at 72.5. So that's a pretty big number. I haven't had success with overs this year, so I'm going to go ahead and go under 72.5 for Arizona versus Washington. It's a big number. And then my dog, I'm going to go Tennessee plus 7.5 versus Bama. I talked about it on the show. I'm not going to go into all of it, but I love watching Tennessee play football.
Same.
I love seeing Hendon Hooker play. They are so fun to watch. They were fun to watch this weekend. And I think if there is a team that has a good shot at beating Bama, I mean, heck, we saw what Texas was able to do against Bama earlier in the season. Like, I feel like, and Tennessee, I feel like is better than Texas. I think this is the game. Now, obviously, Texas was at home, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going Tennessee plus 7.5 versus Bama as my dog.
Well, Tennessee just waxed LSU in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
So and I love Brian Kelly is like, well, we expected to play better there. It's like, okay, dude, like, okay, let's be honest here. You might get waxed faster. Coach O did. You know, it's like, I don't understand. So anyways, you're looking at, I like the under 72.5 because it's 10 touchdowns. You have to think it has to be lower than that. And I do like the Tennessee pick. I might throw a little bit of shekels on that.
There we go.
So my lock of the week, JMU, the 25th ranked Dukes. Not bowl eligible, kind of sucks, but overall, 25th ranked JMU in their first year in the Sun Belt Conference as a FBS team. At Georgia Southern, I'm going to go with over 66.5. Georgia Southern, not a terrible team, but they let in 34 plus, 34, 35, and I believe 42. I believe that which was the last four they've let in. So their defense, not that great. And you're going to go against JMU that's 5-0, and that has been raking all year with the points. I mean, unbelievable. Their lowest all year was 32, and that was against App State. And that's the funny thing is 32 against App State, and they were down like 21-0 or something like that against App State, came all the way back. So JMU and Georgia Southern at Georgia Southern over 66.5. And then my dog, I'm gonna hang my hat on the Commanders again. I'm gonna go +1 at Chicago because
all right,
if this last week, quote
something's
unquote,
got to turn around, right?
I mean, let's be honest here. Chicago sucks. Justin Fields, we'll see if he's anything, but I mean, Chicago just sucks, man. And the thing about it is Washington should have won that game against Tennessee. They should have. That's just the bottom line. The coaching decisions at the end of the game sucked. Maybe Wentz wasn't the best, but the coaching decisions at the end of the game sucked. The play calling sucked. Nick Martin sucks. I'm going to go with Nick Martin for the 8th time tonight and say that. But you're looking at it and saying that +1, they're underdogs against Chicago. The Bears blow. So you're looking at it and saying, something's got to give, like you said. And I think Washington has the star power on offense to go out there in Chicago on a Thursday night and just say, hey, we're playing some backyard football, slinging around Wentz, go back to your old school days and see what you can do. And then hopefully the defense can hold awful. I don't even know what I was trying to figure out a big word, but I don't have one in my brain right now because the Sultan hat is squeezing my brain really tightly right now. But overall, I think they can just literally try to hold them to at least 20 or less. Because right now the over under I think is like 37 or something like that, which is embarrassing. But overall, Washington +1 dogs, book it.
It's nice that the Sultan sticks around to do the rest of the show with us. I appreciate that from the Sultan. He likes to give his sports takes for sure. So that is the money line. Again, bet responsibly, hopefully through DraftKings. As far as this show goes, we'll be back next week. You can follow the show on TikTok at DC Crossover Podcast.
Yes, sir.
And on Twitter at the DC Crossover and at Cerrone16. And the show's on YouTube as well, so be sure to check it out there if you want to watch the video version, so you can see the Sultan and his Sultan hat. And another episode in the books, 126. We will see you guys next week.
Take it away, Johnny.
Take it away, Johnny.
And I've seen it burn through the bears at every turn. Hurts Trubisky feels fields too. Now he doesn't know what to do. Oh, but he's with King Sheep back with Andy Reid.